Welcome everybody to our Camera to Cloud webinar. We will be starting at 3 minutes past the hour. So thank you for your patience and welcome. I'll give a quick head nod, Morgan, that you can see my screen. All right. Maybe if you guys want, as you're joining the webinar, you can maybe throw out where you're from and maybe your favorite football team. I'll go first. Denver, Colorado, and Denver Broncos, of course. We have a one victory winning streak right now. Rodney, how about you? You're a California guy. You got a lot of options down there.
I'm a California guy. Born in Inglewood, raised in Woodland Hills. Played a little football. I would say by default, just the Rams, but I'm more of a baseball guy. I play college ball, minor league baseball. So I would have to say the Dodgers. I switch it up on you.
A little disappointing ending to that season though, huh?
Oh my goodness. Don't even get me going. It's injuries and losing Bauer, man. But yeah.
We're up to 90 participants. Welcome everybody again. We're going to start at 3 minutes past the hour and 2 more minutes. If anyone in the audience wants to tell us from and who your favorite football team or sports team or anything like that, throw it out. Richie, how about you there in Nashville?
Well, obviously, the Titans are doing pretty well right now, and they did a little damage to the Rams last weekend. And then it's easy to cheer for Atlanta when they're close by, especially when they just won. So, but we did. Mookie Betts is from the Nashville area, from the Dodgers, so that's kind of fun. One of the guys I went to high school with coaches Little League, and they went to the World Series a couple of times, and Mookie's friends with them, so I get to see him on Facebook or whatever. So small world.
Someone in the chat room threw out the Edmonton Elks. I don't know even what sports team that is. If that's what sport that is. Anyone know off the top of your head?
Is it a minor league ball team?
Canadian Football League. That's what I was just told.
CFL.
Oh, someone's a Broncos fan.
Got Broncos all day. Nice. All right.
Devastated to hear about Von Miller, but I'll survive.
Got the Bills. I'm going to the Tampa Bay Bills game. Oh, we're 3 past the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone to our webinar. It is a part 1 of hopefully at least 2 series for Camera to Cloud. Today, we're going to be focusing on remote production and editing. My name is Lance Hukill. I'm Chief Commercial Officer for CHESA. Joining me from a vendor perspective, we have Telestream, Adobe, and Lucid Link. And on the customer side, we have ClickUp joining us, and that'll be all part of our panel, and we'll get to that in a second. This webinar is going to be broken into 2 pieces. The first piece is a live demo, and we'll dive right into that quickly here in a second. And then the second part will be a panel discussion. So 2 pieces and then some Q&A interactively. I'll try to stay on top of the chat room here on any questions and answers. With that, let's dive into the live demo. As you can see from some of the names and locations here, we are definitely geographically dispersed. We have Dave Leopold in San Diego. We have Rob Kadzow in Nevada City. We have Dave Helmly in Annapolis, Maryland, and Richie Murray in Nashville, Tennessee. This is also going to be a collaborative demo whereby both Dave and Dave are going to be working within teams in a mutual and a common project with common assets. So with that, I don't want to steal the thunder. Dave Leopold, I'll hand it over to you to drive our demo.
Hi, thank you, Lance. Let me share my screen. So for anyone who's not familiar with LucidLink, I want to start just by giving a quick overview. I'll start by just quickly introducing myself. My name is Dave Leopold. I am the strategic director of strategic development with Lucid Link. I come to Lucid Link recently after 20 years as a creative in media and entertainment. I spent the last 16 years at Viacom CBS. I actually see a few of my former colleagues on the call, so hello to you. But a lot of my focus the last few years has been about finding ways to streamline the creative process and really how can we best use new technology to accelerate things at the speed that we want to create. And so today we're talking about how can we really use the part of ingesting directly into the cloud to then capitalize on every other aspect that we're getting from this remote and distributed workflow. So for anyone who's not familiar with Lucid Link, our technology transforms storage in the cloud into a local file system. We like to think that we are a fairly invisible solution. We don't want you to think that you are using Lucid Link the entire time that you are working. We present ourselves as an attached drive. Think of it as a USB drive that is infinitely scalable and shareable across the globe with instant access to your files. So we create an experience that is both familiar and magical. It feels like you're working off a local drive. We're not asking you to change your workflows. In fact, Lucid Link adapts to the workflows that you're most comfortable with. And again, it gives you instant access to your data from anywhere that you have an internet connection. So what that means is because we're giving you that instant access, we're taking out the process of lengthy downloads. So you no longer have that downtime that you've experienced for who knows how long, whether that's a sync and share like a Dropbox, or whether you've been shipping hard drives and you've had to wait a couple days to get all that footage to you. We're trying to take the non-creative processes and condense them. So taking days, turning them into hours, hours down to minutes, and minutes to seconds, so that you can start working right away. And in some cases, you can even start editing directly from the cloud while the footage is being ingested. Because creatives should spend their time being creative. And really, what's creative about waiting for a download? Nothing. And because we're not doing these lengthy downloads, that means that there's also not a need to replicate all the files. So that means that you're not filling up external drives. That means that your creatives are not wasting time doing extra media management. And because there's no replication, you maintain a single source of truth in the cloud that's shareable to everyone. So it's shareable like a NAS, scalable like the cloud, and it has unparalleled security. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the experience of using Lucid Link, but before I do, I want you to understand what's happening behind the scenes. I want to sort of let you in on the secret sauce, so to speak, because we need you to rethink how you look at the cloud, because our process is very different than what everyone else is doing. So Lucid Link is broken down into three components. You have the Lucid Link client, the lightweight software that sits on each computer. You have the Lucid Link service, which is a metadata coordination service, and you have the object store in the cloud. And I'm just going to go through this very quickly, but basically when I go to upload something into the cloud, the Lucid Link client separates the metadata from the data, syncs the metadata with the cloud so that everyone instantly sees what is living in the cloud and can be accessible. And meanwhile, the file is broken down into little blocks. They're 256 kilobytes by default. And each of those blocks are fed through the local Lucid Link cache and sent through parallel streams up to the cloud. By default, 64 streams to start. Now, that means that you're getting accelerated upload up to the cloud, and each one of these blocks are encrypted. I'm not going to go into the full security model. We can discuss that at a later time, but it is really cool what's happening. Those blocks sit in the cloud. And that means that a user on the other side, which I'll show you in a moment, as they go to access these files, they no longer need to download the entire file to use it. Between the metadata coordination service, the client figures out which blocks are needed at any given moment and streams just those blocks on demand in a just-in-time manner down to the LucidLink cache, so that Premiere Pro, After Effects, whatever application you're using is being served the blocks that it needs to do the play out just in time. So I'm actually going to show you. This is what I'll give the full. Where is my desktop? There we go. So I'll share my full desktop so that you can see what is happening. So this is my LucidLink client. As I said, LucidLink presents itself as though it's an attached drive. So when I go to the client, I simply open the folder, and this is my LucidLink file space. This is where all of my files reside. Now you can see it comes up on the side as though it's an attached drive. It shows 1.13 petabytes of space. And the folder that I'm actually going to be working with is over 50 gigabytes in size. Now, again, these files are in the cloud. I haven't downloaded anything. But if I go into my Lucid demo and I go straight into some of the footage, I can immediately even just start playing them from the desktop in a preview mode just by clicking on anything. And I can jump to anywhere in the file because it is only pulling the blocks of data that I need at any given moment. So that means that as I open a Premiere Pro project, I can start working with any of this data. And again, playing it in real time, wherever I am on the timeline, because Premiere is pulling the blocks I need and doing a little bit of intelligent prefetching to provide smooth and instant playback. So it's great that basically with the click of a button, being able to have permission to this repository in the cloud gives me instant access to all this footage, but it still requires, albeit an accelerated upload, it's still an upload after the fact. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about today is how can we ingest directly to the cloud, capture to the cloud, and what does that do to our workflows? So I'm actually going to take this moment to pause. I'm going to throw it over to Rob Kadzow, from Telestream, who's going to show us how he goes about ingesting video. It could be from a camera source, it could be from a file source. How do you do direct ingest to the cloud that can then be used by LucidLink? So Rob, if you want to take it from here.
Thanks, Dave. Hopefully you can see my screen. And what we're taking a look at here today is the Lightspeed Live Capture product. Lightspeed Live Capture can ingest from SDI video or various IP sources such as transport streams, RTMP, 2110, into various high quality mezzanine formats, including MXF, QuickTime, other streamable formats such as transport streams. And today we are just going to be making an MXF file that has an XDCAM essence. Of course, we support all the editorial codecs you could possibly think of, as well as archival codecs, everything from IMX up to XAVC. One of the unique things about Lightspeed Live Capture is we have the ability to write files to multiple locations. So in this particular demo, I'm going to be writing to my local RAID, which is my D drive here. And then you'll see here that I have an open copy, and this copy is going to, in real time, copy out to my LucidLink file system, which is right here. And those files will be immediately available for ingest. Lightspeed Live Capture is built on the Telestream Vantage architecture. It's a software product, so we can easily add codecs, features, things of that nature. There's no proprietary hardware in the box. It is a web-based UI that you'll see here in a minute. So here is our feed. We're again making XDCAM 50. I'm going to just hit record, and we will see a job start and you will see a copy happen. And if we look at our Lucid Link client, you will see that that is now writing the file out to the Lucid Link file space. And there is our file. And that file is now immediately accessible to anyone editing in Premiere.
Great. Thank you, Rob.
No problem.
So I'm going to take control again. And one thing to notice is Rob is working on a Windows machine. I'm on a Mac. Lucid Link can run natively on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And any application that can use a local file can use a file that's stored in Lucid Link. It's treated just the same. So if I open up my LucidLink file space again, I'll go back in. Oh, there's the Telestream folder. And we can see this is the file that Rob is ingesting, and it is growing as we speak. Now, because LucidLink is only bringing in the blocks that are needed in any given moment and it doesn't need the full file, it doesn't even need a closed file, that means that you can actually start working with a growing file that is ingesting directly to the cloud, again, while it is ingesting. So I'm just going to drag this right into my Premiere Pro, and I'll click over. This may take a second as I run my Zoom and LucidLink and a couple other things together. We should see it happen in a moment. There we go. And so here is my growing file. I can throw it into a sequence. And again, because these are just blocks and it is not doing the full file at once, it will allow me to, let me pull this up. It will allow me to jump around. I think the Zoom is giving me some delays on playback. There we go. But this file is still ingesting, it is still growing, and I can start making my edits. I can start going through this. So if I have a live event going on, or if I have an interview, I can immediately start working with it, pulling clips that I want. My social team can start clipping and posting things to social media as the event is happening. And most importantly, that team doesn't need to be an 8-person or 10-person war room on site. They can be a distributed team from anywhere in the world, can access the same files and push and pull no matter how many other people are using it. So what I do want to show here too is the collaboration aspect. This is an Adobe Premiere Pro team project that I'm working in, and I'm sharing it with Dave Helmly, who is out in Annapolis. So Dave, if I have this, I have the sequence ready to go, I have the assets in place, but I need some extra help. I need you to drop in a few things, maybe some music, etc. Dave, if you want to start.
Yeah, why don't you start by, you look like you've made some changes there. So it looks like you've got an up arrow.
Yes,
changes.
I will sync that. Dave, you are good to go.
So, yep. And then I'll download those changes on my end, and I'll let you continue to talk, and I'll work on a couple of quick things on the edit.
Great. So not only can you ingest live, like we saw with the Telestream, and in fact, we see that file is still growing. And so knowing how Premiere Pro handles growing files, that means that we really have access to everything as it's happening, really seconds after it's recorded or captured. It should be available within Premiere through the LucidLink file space. Because you have that accelerated access, not only is this great for things like live production, but it also can really give an overhaul to things like how you handle dailies. So as things are captured on site, on location, Those dailies can be uploaded after the fact or directly ingested upon capture. And that means an assistant editor or editor can start reviewing the footage, organizing the footage, adding additional metadata, basically in real time as it's being shot. And so you are not only condensing processes by hours, but sometimes days. And so you can get straight to work and you can have an entire team collaborating, giving you an incredibly accelerated process and saving hours and hours or days of time. With
Just to
each project.
reinforce what Dave put into the channel too, this is the original ProRes, right? This is not
Oh,
proxy.
yes. Thank you. Yes. So you can certainly do proxy workflows, but there's no requirement to do that. You can put the original files in LucidLink and access them from anywhere in the world instantly, as long as you have an internet connection. That also means that anyone doing finishing, audio work, audio mixes, more importantly, color, VFX work, compositing, you don't need to work with proxies. You can work with the original files.
You can go ahead and download your changes.
Okay, yes, I
And
see that
I'll
there are
also
some
add
changes.
that the other beautiful thing when you're working in Premiere and After Effects is you can export directly to LucidLink, so which means you skip the entire upload process, right? So I don't have to worry about creating a local file and then uploading that that change.
I have a question in the chat room. What's the minimum internet bandwidth needed for this to work?
So short answer is if you have, I would say between 50 or 60 to 100 down, that should be more than sufficient. You can get away with a little bit less at times. It's not recommended. Basically, you want an internet connection that can sustain the bit rate of your video. But there are things that you can do if you have a slower connection, such as pinning, where you basically pre-cache some of the data. There's ways around it if you have a slow internet connection, but I would say 50 down is a good place to start. So I see that Dave has made some changes. He added a music track. I'll just give it a little play down. And again, without any additional syncing, Dave was able to, Dave, I don't know if you had, if this.
I mean, we
music
should
track
talk
was
about
already
what I did,
in
right?
file
So
space.
none of those files were on your computer.
Thank you.
We have one central folder of truth. So I basically added an audio track to LucidLink. I added the CHESA logo, as you saw there, to the title intro screen. And we don't have the hassle of jockeying files around, right? And then the other cool thing is I got access to that growing file because that's part of this team project, which was kind of cool too, because I was playing around with that. So I can interact with that as I need to. So both of us got the benefit of exchanging files because we're on this central folder that we're both sharing.
Yeah, so there's really no better way to keep everyone on your team in sync with each other. They have the single source of truth. You have a collaboration in this team project, and that keeps everyone on the same page, working with the same files at the same time. Now, this shows how you can really accelerate the user experience side of things, but I'm going to throw to Tom for a minute, Tom Kehn from CHESA, to just talk a little bit about the process of getting people set up on this, because usually as you adopt a new solution, there's a lengthy onboard and there's training needed. And with LucidLink, you don't need any additional hardware. There's really not much training involved, and you can get up and running almost immediately. So Tom, if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a sea change in the way we traditionally set up, storage systems, and establishing, say, some kind of remote workflow. You mentioned before, like either a push and pull system or, maybe using proxies and a MAM. All of that kind of goes away and really just allows you to get in there and start working pretty quickly. some of the things to consider is now is, if you're going to bring your own kind of cloud storage to bear, or whether you're going to use the built-in, cloud storage that you use, which is IBM. And also just making sure that, the remote editors have Lucid Link installed properly and configured properly for each one of them. So we'll usually build out like a one-sheeter on either how to do it yourself, or we'll remote in to help them with it. And then, making sure there's like a good, decent amount of, say, cache that could be potentially used, as you mentioned before, if you want to pin the cache. And then lastly, just making sure that the appropriate bandwidth is available at each sort of like endpoint, which we find is kind of the, is just something now that you have to vet out, just to say, all right, if you have all your editors, just got to make sure you have at least like 50 megabit down, which most people do these days. We're finding, upwards of a gig is available now. And so it's just, it really opens the doors. But even when we're, folks are actually vetting out, say, some temporary help, freelancers and whatnot, it's just part of the vetting process. Do you have an internet connection that is at least 50 megabit or higher? Great, we can use you. And so you put that down as a requirement, for some of the freelancers. So talking through the client on all of that, just to make sure all the tables set and whatnot, is what we have to go through. But setting up the LucidLink cloud space is just, minutes as opposed to days. And one final thought on that, doing like proof of concepts is really easy now, because we can just spin it up and folks can use it for a month on a project and whatnot, and they're only paying for what they use. So we're getting a lot more sort of POCs as a result of LucidLink. So
Great. Yeah. So just to recap, some of the benefits with LucidLink is not only is it speeding up workflows and enabling new workflows like remote collaboration and almost nonlinear collaboration. We can ingest to the cloud and start working with it immediately, just as you would with an ingest device on-prem. You can now do this from any location. We're agnostic as far as operating systems, Mac, Windows, and Linux. We work on any S3 compatible or Azure Blob storage. And we're just looking for the ways that we can accelerate those creative processes across M&E as much as possible. So I'd like to throw back to Lance, and maybe we can hear a little bit about the experience from Rodney as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I got one slide. I was going to talk about media asset management before we go into our panel. We purposely didn't bring in a media asset management platform into this webinar, but all that's collaboration. You can see you did without a man. But to state maybe the obvious, what's table stakes nowadays in man land is being able to have an Adobe panel inside Premiere. So it's very powerful you're in Premiere and you have multiple petabytes, tens of thousands of assets within your MAM system, be able to search for them, retrieve them from archive, put them into your timeline without even leaving the Premiere Pro experience. Some of the ones that CHESA uses is CatDB, Iconic, and IPV, but there are many more that Adobe supports. So great extensibility that Adobe provides with their panel integrations. So with that said, let's go to our panel discussion. Let me introduce our panelists first. And if you don't mind doing a little wave while I introduce you, we'll start off with our guest, Rodney McMahon from ClickUp, Director of Post-Production. Rodney, thank you.
Hey, hey everybody. Yeah, thank you, Lance. My name is Rodney. I've been at ClickUp since February. New experience for me. It's been really great, really fun working with such a highly hyper growth company. The team I am working with there, I used to work with at BuzzFeed, so we kind of brought the band back together a little bit. I worked with them in 2014 or so, but again, it's been a great experience. I started my career in broadcast television. I was over at Entertainment Tonight, where post-production found me, I would say. I was on path to being a producer, got to sit and edit in an edit beta, work with an editor, and I kind of just fell in love after that. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be where I want to go in my career. And then, yeah, I jumped into the digital space at BuzzFeed. Like I said, I was at Spotify for a few years. I helped build their original video and podcast team. I was over at Tastemade as well. And I was the director of post there, helped them create their infrastructure. I'm sorry, well, I'd probably say fine tune their infrastructure. They already had Edit Share established at the time. But yeah, I've jumped all over town in post-production and creative roles for the last like 12 years or so.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rodney. Dave Helmly, you saw him during the demo. He's with Adobe, Head of Strategic Development, specifically around Cloud Edit. Dave, thank you. Morgan Pograki from Adobe, also Senior Strategic Development Manager at Adobe. Hi, Morgan. Dave Leopold, he was also on the demo, Director of Sales M&E for LucidLink. Rob Kadzo as well with Telestream, who did the demo, Product Manager for Live Capture. And last but not least, Tom Kehn, CHESA Senior Solutions Architect. So let's roll right into our panel. Again, the panelists are doing a great job answering some questions on the Q&A. We can continue to do that. I can bring up questions on the panel from the chat line as well. So thank you for interacting that way. Rodney, let's stay with you. Tell us about your experience regarding some of the challenges and obstacles that you've had with remote edit and how you've basically solved them.
Yeah, it's a great question, Lance. When I first got to ClickUp, like other startup companies, you walk in, they're like, hey, we've had 10 shoots already, and they're across these different drives. One's at my house, one's in the office somewhere. I don't know where this is. And then, hey, we have 20 shoots tomorrow, and I need, this series cut, by this month or whatever. So, a lot put on the plate. There's only about 3 of us at the time. And with the pandemic, in full swing, there was no sight of an office being rented or anything. So ClickUp is in San Diego. A lot of our shoots were happening in San Diego or LA. So that was an obstacle as well, because my editors were in New York, LA. I have a sound specialist that is in the UK as well as LA. So yeah, I was trying to wrap my mind around like, okay, how are we going to do this? Are we going to be literally having a PA or, some type of courier take drives from San Diego to LA? Am I going to do that? Like, no way. Like, or should we look into some kind of like UDP? Like, what are we going to do? So I talked to my friends over at CHESA, Tom, Brian, who I met when I was on my way out of Spotify. And I was just like, hey, man, like, this is where, my mind is at with what I'm up against right now. And I don't see us, having an on-prem solution anytime soon. So like, how should we, reverse engineer our storage solution? And I had some experience with a virtual, machine solution that wasn't as turnkey. And again, you guys just had mentioned how quick and easy it is to start Lucid, which is like so awesome when it comes to bringing on freelance editors that just want to jump in and cut and do their thing. It's very much, creating their credentials, giving them access to the shares that they need, and then they're off to the races within a few minutes. And it was amazing. But going back to in terms of like, the solution and leaning into that, it's scary at first, especially with all these new, well, not all of them, but the few new solutions that are available to us and not a lot of people using them. I'm like, what, should we go this route? Like, is it going to work? So a little skeptical at first, but once we jumped in there, and again, a very small team at first, and we still are pretty small. I have an AE, I have 1 editor, I have about 3 freelance editors across LA and New York. And then I have a colorist and freelance sound mix team. And people are working from home. We have a few stations in the office. And it ended up working out great after figuring out some of the issues that you guys had kind of already mentioned that we were struggling with in terms of bandwidth. You know, our AE, who is our ingest, you know, lead essentially, who's adding metadata, who's creating proxies, who's getting everything into the cloud. You know, he was only, I think his internet at the time was like 30 something down, and around 40 something up. It was horrible. And Tom, you remember those days where I was just like, what is going on here, man? Like, so that was definitely on us though. And we were trying to figure out how we can either, like, you know, create some type of stipend for my employees to get better internet, do whatever, right? So that was a big first step for us. And then just getting our hands dirty with it and really, you know, and honestly, I had no other option because we were in full swing of shoots. I remember my first week, day 3, my boss comes up to me and goes, "Hey, we're shooting 10 spots on Monday." And I was like 10, like what? Like, how do we even do that in a day? Like what, what is going on? And so yeah, you know, when the places I've worked at is all about volume. There's a demand for volume. And then there's also obviously a demand for quality, but I've just been always put in these positions to create workflows and build teams around pumping things out really quickly. And Lucid during this time has been able to do that for us, which has been great, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like the gist of, you know, my world. Would you want me to go deeper into some other stuff?
I think that's good right now, Rodney. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Thank you for that. The questions keep on pounding in. I see some interaction going on, so I'll try to reconcile what's been answered and what hasn't. Morgan, let me shift over to you on the Adobe side, just from a industry trends perspective. I mean, anything emerging that you're seeing with respect to camera cloud that might be interesting?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's safe to say post-pandemic, I don't think anything is going to go back to what we used to consider normal. You know, people want to be on set or on site without physically being on site. People want intuitive UIs and integrated solutions that keep the team focused more on the creative intent rather than being bogged down with some of the logistics of technical execution. A flexible and, more importantly, secure way of collaborating remotely during the edit. All of these things are key areas of focus that a lot of clients, both in the Hollywood and M&E space, in addition to news, sports, and broadcasts, are all looking into pretty heavily. I would say, though, perhaps the biggest trend we've seen is that there's a ton of different types of cloud solutions emerging for either streaming, storing, processing, or live collaboration. And it seems as though we're almost at an inflection point where, as solution providers, we need to be asking our clients and our users, what sort of specific functionality are we really looking for? Specifically, when we say terms like camera to cloud. Are we looking to transmit video files directly from set as they're recorded, or do we just need for them to be accessible to the team after the fact? So I think that's one of the reasons why we're so heavily invested in our relationship with CHESA, and that's why you guys are so great, because you know, you're a key solution provider for getting down to the root of what that exact solution is, because particularly with camera to cloud workflows, there's not yet a one-size-fits-all solution. And I think over the next couple of years, especially with the emergence of 5G and other technologies, new hardware solutions, we're gonna see this whole camera to cloud and remote edit solution vary pretty wildly as this whole workflow evolves.
Awesome, thank you for that. Rob, I think there's a chat question, a couple of questions that are kind of related to how to manage remote ingest, just from a manageability perspective, and some specific questions around if you're shooting with anything from Sony to A7, are you really shooting directly to the cloud, and what do we mean by that? Maybe you can help with just the remote edit management experience of ingest.
Sure. It really depends on if you're interested in live editing of the events. So even pre-pandemic, we've been involved in a lot of events where we put the Lightspeed Live Capture units at the facility, right, or at the venue and ingest SDI video. If it's file-based, capture, Lightspeed Live Capture is built on our Vantage transcoding platform. It's the same stuff. So whether it be file-based or SDI video, you can ingest that and then pump it out to the cloud. So we're really totally agnostic, whether it be SDI cameras, SD up to 4K today, and anything file-based as well.
Awesome, thank you. Tom, Morgan kind of gave us a nice little plug on the CHESA side, but we have to be agnostic on a variety of things as an integrator. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing when architecting these types of remote edit, connecting to cloud environments?
Yeah, I think a real challenge is at this point is like maybe hybrid workflows, because folks will have on-prem storage and they'll want to integrate LucidLink into it, and oftentimes there's like a MAM layer as well. So we're dealing with kind of synchronizing how to synchronize like a data set between a LucidLink share or LucidLink cloud space and an on-prem space, so that the kind of utopian vision is that you have every file on-prem. If you're a hybrid shop, right, you have your NAS and everyone works off that, gets to super high speed access. And then you have your folks that are remote, and you should be able to edit on-prem. And if that stuff is syncing properly between the on-prem and say LucidLink cloud space, you should be able to go home and just fire up your computer and just start picking up where you left off, kind of thing. That's what we're kind of aiming for. That's always been kind of a challenge, is getting the right sort of synchronization software in place, dialing in that sync, having a sort of a MAM, if there's a MAM involved, having the MAM sort of look at both of those sort of storage locations and kind of reconcile them. Other than that, all the things that I mentioned before, which is like the bandwidth, making sure that that is kind of available at each user location, the cache. Rodney mentioned some of those challenges that we had. We actually set up, because he's running Iconic, and Iconic has this thing called Iconic Storage Gateway that actually scans your storage for changes and indexes and creates the thumbnails and whatnot, and you can search and find them. But we had no on-prem server, nothing. So we just we used some EC2 instance in the cloud that was running the Iconic Storage Gateway that had LucidLink mounted. So anytime files went into LucidLink, that VM would see them. The ISG would pick up all those files, and then they would show up in Iconic, and that's how they were able to access and find things, and then do their review and approves and all the things that they do throughout the life cycle of a project. So just dialing in those settings, making sure there's enough cache, and I think we had to beef up the VM, so that it could do more transcoding. It's really just about dialing it all in, because this is all just pretty new, right? And so thank you, Rodney, for being like the guinea pig, if you will. But once it's dialed in and working good, then the next one becomes so much easier, because you're so used to all these little things that you got to get right, and they're all very well documented now. So each one we do now is a lot easier than the first. So, Rodney, you were pretty much the first that did it completely cloud first deployment with no on-prem. So
yeah, and it was even with our archive, I couldn't rely or put a media manager or an AE at risk during the time of the pandemic to go into an office for LTO or anything like that. So I was like, okay, let's use Wasabi as our solution for right now, and figure something out once we get into a better place. So yeah, like completely cloud, solution. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting, because now you are building out a facility, so you will soon be a hybrid customer. So it's interesting how it's going the other way, instead of folks that are on-prem going to cloud. So yeah, we're gonna have to do a nice little hybrid build out for you.
Yeah. And here's the reality of it too. So our office is a very forward thinking, just environment and company. And we just got our new office. I'm in it right now as movers are, getting their stuff in, but we have this office, but our CEO is like, look, like you can work from anywhere. I don't care if you're in the office, like don't come into the office. I'd rather you work on a beach. Right. And like, that would be great. Right. So our editors, even though, we have this space, they're still going to be like, hey, I'm going to work out of, Utah tomorrow, because I'm going to leave on a flight to go here, dude. And like, cool. So this remote solution isn't going anywhere. And this is like for companies across the board. I'm still really tight with my Spotify folks. I don't know if you guys follow them closely, but Spotify announced work from anywhere permanently. So all the employees literally are moving wherever they dreamed of, and then they're staying. Yeah. So
and they heavily use LucidLink in their environment. So
That's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Dave, maybe you should give a little bit of roadmap on from an Adobe perspective, what your visions in the next couple of years, and of course, there's the Frame.io that we'll be touching on in part 2 of our series later on. But can you give us some insights on the Adobe vision side?
Yeah, Lance. Obviously, a very good conversation today. I think if we look at the roadmap, even taken with what Rodney's been saying and some of the other people here, it's all about the experience, right? So one of the things that's great, just about LucidLink in general, and this will feed into your question in a second, is you don't have to think about it, right? I mean, I think, Rodney, you would agree it's no different than a thumb drive, right? Like you just stick it in there, it comes up and everything's just great. It's like, I don't have to think about it. I can create folders and just work as if I'm in the office. But to your point, I can be in, outside of Nashville, Tennessee, if that's where I want to work, and move from California, wherever it is, it doesn't make any difference. We're all like one group, right? So we're looking at a lot of things on our roadmap, especially around camera to cloud. And we did, Lance, as you had said, set up this second session because there are a lot of questions, people asking, very specific cloud questions from cameras, because there's different workflows, right? If you have a Hollywood daily workflow, and we really look at what Frame.io, now an Adobe company, kind of brought front and center to sort of say, look, I need to shoot dailies. I've got a red camera or some other camera. I've got a separate audio device, and I need to upload these things to the cloud, have them mux it together into a proxy that I can then edit in Premiere or whatever I want to, but yet have these files separate. That's one workflow. But if you fast forward down the road as well, what happens if I'm shooting, ProRes on any of these, iPhone 13 devices with a $15, handle on it, and I just want to shoot video? That's kind of the low end of the scale. It's pretty easy to see that that's just going to end up somewhere where everybody's going to get to it. I like to think the beautiful thing about LucidLink, as I sort of responded in the chat, it's just a local drive as far as any applications. I'd love to say it only works with Premiere and the Adobe apps, but the truth is it works with anything, Final Cut, Avid, whatever you throw at it. It's just a file system, right? So if you can think of camera to cloud for one is just getting to a file system on the simple side, I think that's great. 5G, by the way, you guys are asking about delivery and all that's going to get you there. We've got growing files to think about, where Telestream kind of comes in and says, hey, have you thought about how we do a live edit? And when we drag that into Premiere, there was a 10-second delay because that's normal. Premiere has to set the outbound, and grow that every 10 seconds to the out point. But it's all about the experience. So where do we see, a lot of this going, Lance? I think when you look at team projects that Dave and I were bouncing back and forth, and you look at Frame.io and that amazing collaboration environment, and of course, camera to cloud environment that they have, it needs to all be one experience. So our goal right now, what we've been working on, is just, what does this look like if you start a project and you want to invite people to an edit? Let's not have to invite people twice. Let's make it all, just a logical workflow. So I think, a year or two from now, this is all going to be second nature. You're not going to worry about a team project or a cloud project. A project is just a project. Whether or not you choose to make it cloud accessible versus local, it'll be up to you. So I'm pretty excited about it. So we're having a lot of great conversations with our new friends at Frame now that they're part of the Adobe family.
Well, I like that term, one experience. I mean, because from a creative person, you don't want to have multiple experiences in that environment. So that's a good way to, simple way to oversimplify it.
And we should add one thing that we did invite Michael Cioni, who I would sort of call him the godfather of camera to cloud. He really is quite the visionary to do this part 2 for you that we'll be doing on December 1st. So pretty excited that's coming up.
Dave Leopold, there's some dialogue here on ways that LucidLink can help directly accelerate production and post-production. We've kind of talked around this a little bit. Is there anything that we've missed that you want to reinforce in that area?
Well, I think to reiterate the points that Dave and Tom and Rodney have just made, what we're seeing here is we're not looking to do, the industry as a whole has this problem. And the spotlight was definitely shown on it more when the pandemic hit, that we had to figure out new ways to work. And a lot of people were just starting to look for Band-Aid solutions. But what we're pursuing, what we've been talking about today, none of these are just Band-Aid solutions. These are all solutions that we're pulling together to be part of an end-to-end solution. So from ingest through delivery, I saw a question about compliance edits. If you're delivering your masters back up to your LucidLink Filespace, that means that immediately compliance editors, wherever they are in the world, can start working on these, again, without downloads. All of these are being pulled together for not only end-to-end, but it's to create a sustainable workflow. We're not just trying to solve the problem so that we can work the way that we did a few months ago and solve for where everyone is. These are being put together to make distance and location irrelevant as we look at your workflows. So whether you're remote, on-prem, hybrid, we don't want to say, well, here's the solution for on-prem, here's the solution for hybrid, here's the solution for remote. We're saying we're giving you one way to work. You don't need to switch between them depending on your situation. We just want that entire aspect of it to be irrelevant. And once we push distance and location out of the equation, then we can really start looking at ways to accelerate things like collaboration and get people working on the same files at the same time. And we're going to see that exponential growth and not only getting work done faster, but we're going to see the quality of the end product improve as well.
Awesome. Hey, Rodney, it sounds like you're pretty well in hand with your current solution that you already characterized today with you and Tom, but there's got to be some things that what's next on your list? I mean, what keeps you up at night? What pain points have you not addressed that you still need to look into? Anything that is glaringly missing from your future as far as your department goes? And it could be non-remote edit related, but
I think in terms of what is in it for what's the future for us, honestly, is thinking on-prem. In terms of remote solutions, looking into acceleration softwares, like the Signiants and the Asperas and stuff like that. But right now, to be honest, what's on my mind is just growing my team. We're still small and mighty. I'm looking for talent specifically in the San Diego area for some of these roles. I mean, editing and these other things I can get remote, but I think right now bandwidth has been an issue, and I want to kind of use that to segue into the support I've been getting from Lucid, which has been great because you probably have heard I was putting in some tickets. Boy, I was getting you guys in the beginning because, like Tom said, it was so new, and I'm trying to run a department. I don't have the bandwidth at all to troubleshoot as much as I should have. So, let's put in some tickets. Let's get some help, so, but yeah, I think, the support piece that I received both from the CHESA and Lucid side was great. And just educating myself with everything, was just crucial with all this new technology. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like you said, we're kind of sailing right now. Everything's looking good. And once we get into this office, which is going to literally right now up until next week, we'll have a home. So yeah.
Well, you give good advertisements for to be able to work on the beach, so I'm sure your recruiting is going to get easier after this webinar.
I know. Honestly, this our CEO is pretty special. So yeah, it's pretty great place to work.
Excellent. So this is again, this is a recorded session. We'll be able to share it out. I'm not sure how we'll do that exactly yet, but it will be a recorded session. And then a little plug for that next part 2 that we mentioned earlier, Camera in the Cloud with Frame.io. Keep your head in the cloud. So look forward to that later in the I guess next month. It's already November. So any other questions or comments from anybody or closing remarks? I don't see anything in the chat room. Thank you, panelists. You guys are doing a fantastic job of answering questions without having to do it here live. Anything else you guys want to cover before we close out?
I'll just say you just have to try it. If you haven't tried the trial yet on LucidLink, do yourself a favor and download it and you'll see. To Rodney's point about some of the pains that he went through as an early adopter, I think, Rodney, you could probably say a lot of those people probably had old routers or we'll say modems right at home, where it's like in some cases, if you're going to edit on the couch and you don't plug in Ethernet, you can't see how good can be. And then you got to ask the boss for a new router or yell at, depending on where you are in the country, Verizon or whoever to fix your equipment. But, there are some things that you have to do to level set. And I think, LucidLink, not only do they have some great Adobe, sort of best practices and other apps, they've got some other best practices to look at. So definitely check that out. So I'll throw a plug out for them.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm just scrolling through the questions here real quick. Sorry, you guys have done a really good job, as I mentioned, answering them.
I would say really quick, my freelance editors, every freelancer I've worked with has loved it. So just want to let you guys know that they're just like, oh, I can just pop it. Like I just like sign in into all my desktop. I was like, yeah. And they're like, dude, where has this been? Like, so a lot of great feedback from the editors.
It's also one of the few things, Rodney, that work on the Mac. So if you're on the Mac, it's been the most, take it from the cloud edit guy, to get a Mac solution that is a true Mac solution that works the way you would expect it to out of the box. It's really the only one out there that I've seen that works the way that it does, that you can edit an original file, much less a Telestream growing file, right within Premiere. So.
Absolutely. And I'll just quickly say that having worked as an editor for many, many years, I was often the only person on my team that could not work from home. And as solutions came up and file transfers were happening, it got a little bit easier, or I'd be lugging hard drives home. But when I first saw LucidLink, one of my first thoughts was technology has finally caught up with me. And it gave me that freedom to be able to work without all those extra issues. So yeah, I know Dave just mentioned this, but we do have on lucidlink.com a 14-day free trial. Really the best way to get a sense of what it's like to work with LucidLink is to try it, and, get your hands dirty, and then reach out to CHESA if you have any other questions about this.
No, I'll also throw one out to Morgan, since she's center on my screen. We do have a number of Hollywood productions, right, Morgan, that are testing out LucidLink, and this is using Premiere Pro productions, and these are Hollywood films being edited on LucidLink. So I'm gonna let you comment.
I mean, it's even what we use internally. Shameless plug, I guess, there again. But I think just about everybody that ends up seeing LucidLink thinks it's too good to be true until they try it. And especially considering we rolled out productions right before the pandemic that was geared towards, on-prem users, and then having to pivot to come up with hybrid scenarios where teams were still able to collaborate. LucidLink kind of just seems to be that secret sauce that ties everything together there. So yeah, it's very popular. It's growing in numbers almost every day.
Yeah, we're finally getting those jetpacks we were promised by the future.
I just seen flying cars now, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, we're getting close to the top of the hour.
Good.
Dave, Morgan, Dave, Rodney, Rob, Tom, thank you so much. You guys have been fantastic on the demo and the panel side. We look forward to part 2 in December with Adobe and Frame.io. And thank you, audience, for joining us. And we'll get this posted to have it forwarded to somebody else, or you guys want to replay it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
All right. You.
Thanks, everybody.